beginning, I can remember Dad going out with a shovel, and he had a sheet tied to it, and stepped it off, and would hold that up to mark the passes. That's right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But today it's a whole different ballgame. Today we are at Gibbs Aerial Spray, Fremont, Ohio. These gentlemen have applied growers mineral solutions on our farm for a very long time. My dad started with growers in '55, and we had a gentleman from Fostoria by the name of Snyder that did some of our aerial spray work. But then that would be in the 56, 57 time frame, and I can remember that barely. But then the next thing that I knew, some of the neighbors in the neighborhood were applying chemical with ground-driven equipment, and then the next thing I knew, they were applying growers for us with the airplane, and that would be Brian's grandfather. So Brian is third generation here. He applies all our foliar material. We, in the past, have put growers on the plants when they've been small with ground equipment, and beans we would do with ground equipment, but we always like to have that foliar spray pre-tassel. And we never had a high boy or anything like that, so that was always done by Gibbs's to get that spray on with the nutritional additive. So now in recent years, as we've gotten a little older, Gibbs's are applying a little bit more for us because we're just not as quick as we were. And that was another issue. If we got caught with weather that didn't allow us to foliar spray, we could always count on the Gibbs's to help us out and get that done for us. So we wanted to do a podcast where we showed aerial application, but I thought we needed to get the pilot on here so you could get a face and see who he is and let him talk a little bit about what his philosophy is as far as running business and the type of business that he's got. So, Brian, I just want you to take off and talk about Gibbs Aerial Spray history, talk about your equipment, kind of the approach you want to use, and I'll probably be interrupted now and then.
No, that's all right. Well, and welcome to a nice rainy day here. I'm sure people can maybe hear in the background. It's pouring here currently, so we're on a rain delay. But like you said, my grandpa started our business back in 1952, primarily spraying tomatoes for the Heinz Company. The Heinz Company had a location right here in Fremont, Ohio. So started out primarily with ground equipment, and then sometime in the early 60s, there was a real wet year came along, so he hired someone in with a little Piper Pawnee to help, do stuff by air, and he just thought that was pretty neat and thought that was something he was interested in. He served in the Navy in World War II, and he didn't fly in the Navy, but he got his pilot's license when he got out, through the GI Bill. And it took off from there. By the early 70s, we were completely out of ground machines and kind of took off running with airplanes. We've had a whole host of airplanes over the years, from small piston-powered to bi-wing radial, the AgCat, and now we have 3 turbine-powered air tractors. It's just kind of the way the market has evolved, like everything else in agriculture. There's only 2 companies remaining in the United States that produce spray planes. These are specifically made for this job. So these are made in Texas and the other company's in Georgia, but we've had a good luck and a good relationship with Air Tractor to, we trust their equipment and our lives, I guess, sitting in the seat. So, but they're all turbine powered. They run on jet fuel. They're all, we have a couple different sizes. They range from 500 gallon to 650 gallons is what they hold in the hopper. So we can be pretty efficient as far as getting a lot of work done in a short amount of time, which is kind of the name of the game in the custom application business. I always joke around to friends and family. It's always feast or famine. If
That's right.
If one guy wants something, usually a lot of guys want something at the same time. And
Sure.
And
Yeah.
if nobody wants anything, then nobody wants anything. So our business is really cyclical. We usually are either slammed or we're sitting here twiddling our thumbs.
And the thing I'll say is, when we always had our tail in the crack, these guys always were very helpful to us. They would do the best they could. And the other thing is, we want it sprayed early in the morning, late in the evening. These guys are very accommodating to that. And we have found that to be very, very helpful to us. It's a long-term relationship, and it's been a good relationship as far as we're concerned. One thing, when did your dad come into the operation?
Yeah, so my dad, he started flying in the early 70s, and then he took ownership of the business sometime in the early 80s, and then I purchased it from him. And
Does your dad still fly?
Oh yeah, my dad still flies for us. So myself and my father, and then I have a hired pilot.
I see.
So we have three of us fly 3 airplanes, and my dad just turned 70 last September, but he still really enjoys it and still likes doing it every day, and I'm thankful for it because during the busy times it's nice to have the extra help.
Absolutely. Because Brian's dad did a tremendous amount of application for us, so we're just very, very comfortable with these guys. They know where we are, they know what we're looking for, and you'll see in the podcast video what kind of job they do, and we just think it's top drawer. Beginning, I can remember Dad going out with a shovel, and he had a sheet tied to it, and stepped it off, and would hold that up
to mark the passes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But today it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah. So today we operate solely with GPS. It marks us out in the field. It controls the rate. So if you want, 3 gallons per acre of your product on your field, it's all controlled with a rate controller, just like ground equipment would be.
Sure.
We log everything we do so we can provide as applieds or, see the coverage maps and all that stuff. And
so what is clean out? Is that an issue for you? Is that difficult for you? Like if you're spraying some other product and then you're going to spray my product and you wanted to clean out, do you have ability?
So it's kind of the same way as a ground rig. The airplanes all now carry rinse tanks on them, so we can actually purge the rinse tank in. It's got rinsers inside the tank that rinse the tank down.
Really? Okay.
They carry about 40 gallon of water is what we carry with us at all times. So when I finish up a job, I'll actually rinse like in the field. So you're getting 100% of your product.
Every little bit of it.
And then a lot of times people see us, they ask questions like if we double spray something or whatever. A lot of times when we get to a field, we always respray the first pass because it's going to be rinse water.
Sure.
It takes about 3 acres just to get the boom primed. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we respray, those areas, and we operate in a lot of different patterns. Sometimes we go straight back and forth. Sometimes we create lands, like we'll work it in a racetrack pattern. Sometimes we skip every other pass. That's the benefit of having, GPS equipment.
Yeah, that makes a big deal.
I always joke to people, the GPS doesn't care which way it's planted, So sometimes if the field's a little longer a certain way, or we have houses or wires or some sort of obstruction, we can do it any which way. And
yeah, that was another thing I failed to ask you over there. This drone thing that's come on now, I just want you to kind of chat a little bit about that and how you view it.
Yeah.
Well,
to me, it's a tool in a toolbox, and that's what I've always considered ourselves is we're just tools in a toolbox for farmers to be able to utilize. You know, we're no different than a ground machine or a drone, an airplane, helicopter. You know, they all have specific, you know, instances where they're appropriate or they work well. You know, from my vantage point, I haven't jumped in the drone world yet, just because it's ever changing. It seems like every year they're advancing it, and I'm just, you know, from a custom application standpoint, like we spoke earlier, we just have so many demands for early in the morning, late in the evening, working around labor. You know, everybody wants something custom, and it is really hard to provide that without big equipment. I mean, it's
you got to be fast.
You got to be quick and efficient at it. And I think drones have a place. I mean, there's obviously a lot of things we can't do, and you know, areas in town or around wires and stuff, but you know, it's just, this is what we've specialized in. So that's
another comment I would like to make. I know when Luther Jr., Brian's dad, got started, he had a little issue with the plane, and I know that Brian's had a little issue with the plane. And I'll tell you, that was always a very big concern for us, that we thought, wow, you know, we don't want to lose these guys. And we've been blessed that they were able to, you know, work through whatever the issue was. And that's been very good for us, because they're truly reliable. I mean, we've just been super happy.
Yeah, we do all our own maintenance here. You know, my dad and I are both certified mechanics, so we split our own engines. We do, you know, we take a lot of pride in making it as safe and as reliable as we can. You know, we've had, in the 73 years we've been in business, we've had 2 unscheduled landings, I guess you could say, you know, and obviously we don't want that to happen, but 2 in 73 years, I think is a record. I'm okay.
A great track record
for the millions of acres we've treated, you know, but it's like anything. It's like a tractor or a car, or, you know, it's a mechanical machine. You know, there's things that can happen, but we're extremely diligent on keeping it,
trying to minimize
things like that. So
absolutely. So the other question I have, you know, we're looking at this plane, and you've got the thing on the bottom. What are you doing as far as fluid application or solid application? I mean,
so we do both, and we do both consistently throughout the year. You know, we start out in the spring, usually with a steady mix of either dry fertilizer application on wheat. A lot of guys are starting to fertilize alfalfa. We do a lot of clover seed into early wheat, like frost seeding in February or March, that they'll then bale, you know, after the wheat comes off. You know, now we're doing a mix of some urea on pre-tassel corn along with liquid foliar applications. And then cover crop here in Northern Ohio, our proximity to the lake is just really kind of set off the cover crop business for us. I mean, we're flying now into sometimes the first part of November, you know, where our season used to traditionally end, you know, the end of August, early September, when beans, you know, would start to turn. Now we're slinging cover crop seed into November.
Are you applying much wheat into soybeans?
Not near as much as we used to.
Yeah, that was happening quite a bit.
My grandpa did a ton of it, and my dad used to do a lot. But with the evolution of a no-till drill and you know, some of the technological advancements, we still have customers we do, you know, because it gets wet and guys want to get their wheat on early, and we still do a fair bit, but you know, cover crop is definitely the bigger market for us in the fall. But
exactly. Now, is most of that going into like corn that'll go to soybeans, or do you have any idea? It's a steady mix
of both. We do a lot of cereal rye into corn that's going to soybeans, but we do a lot of oats and maybe an oats rye mix into soybeans that are going to corn.
Corn, really?
So it might not overwinter, or only a little bit of the mix will overwinter, but we do, I would say, a steady mix of corn and soybeans both.
So when you're doing fertilizer, would you say urea is the biggest one that you're doing?
Yeah, urea, ammonium sulfate, usually a mix of the two. You know, it just depends what the grower needs. And you know, we don't sell any product here. We don't make any recommendations. We just purely fly the airplane. So it's kind of up to somebody else to make that determination. And then I always joke, we just do what we're told, you know?
So I understand. And, you know, your idea or your comment that it's feast or famine, you know, when guys are applying stuff with ground application and you get this kind of rain, you know, these guys, their phone's probably ringing off the hook because they got to get it done if they're on a timing.
Well, we're in a really niche market here. We have a lot of vegetables around us. You know, we have cabbage, peppers, pumpkins, strawberries, cucumbers. You know, we do a lot of vegetable stuff, and timeliness is key for that because you have a lot of labor working in the field. They might be harvesting, hoeing weeds, vine training. We have to work around their schedules. You got pollinators, you know, bees out there actively working. So we do a lot of spraying it late in the evening or real early in the morning. And
I got you to get around that.
Yeah, it's a timing thing is kind of the line we're always walking, you know. So
Sure. So if you are strapped on one day, how many acres would you accomplish?
Well, for liquid, it all depends kind of on the proximity of the work to us. And, you know, we're in the custom application business, so a lot of guys want to do different things. They have different mixes, different rates. They buy product from different people. So that makes our work tricky occasionally. But, I mean, in a very good day, I always figure we could do an average of 5,000 or 6,000 acres is what we can get across, you know.
So what about your distance from here? I mean, what do you have a circle you draw you won't go outside of, or how does that work?
No, you know, in today's modern agriculture too, guys are just a lot more spread out than they used to be. You know, some guys are traveling probably 20, 30 miles to farm, you know.
Sure.
So we try to stay within 20 miles of here, but we do move occasionally to other airports, like, you know, surrounding county airports to, you know, do stuff that might be a little further out. But our main focus is obviously just keeping the customers happy that are right in our backyard, you know.
So if you go to another airport, is that pretty easy? Are most of them pretty accommodating?
Yeah, we call ahead, we make a plan, you know, we understand it's not ours, so we want to be as small of a footprint as we can possibly be, and we
understand.
Make sure all of our equipment's up to speed, and you know we don't want anything leaking or spilling or you know whatever. So we try to be as good a stewards of aviation as we can be. You know,
I understand. I think I've covered just about everything I want to cover. Is there anything else you would like to talk about?
No, hopefully it gets raining here eventually. It's been downpouring this whole time, but I you know, appreciate, like I said, everything you guys have done with us, and look forward to doing more in the future. And
thanks, Brian. I really appreciate it. And for those of you watching, you know, any questions, certainly contact us, and we'll tell you what we know. This podcast has been brought to you by Growers Mineral. Please visit growersmineral.com.